Good evening, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Wednesday Night Live with me, Mike Avery. Back here in my home studio tonight. Going to be joined shortly by a special guest. You know who it is. It's Amy Trotter. Stephen, good evening. How are you? Stephen, you and I are playing phone tag right now, but we will make our connection. I know we will. On a beautiful Wednesday evening, at least here in my part of the state, wasn't it nice to get the rain yesterday? Jerry says he could not miss Amy. Well, and you too. Otto, how are things in Petoskey? John. I know John from a long time ago, but now he's working in the marketing department at Jay's. Congrats to you, John. Dan, good evening. Bernie, how was the golf game today? The last time I saw our guest coming up here was at the charity golf outing. We'll talk a little bit about that and more, of course, because that's old news at this point. Tony, my fellow skinny water rat, says, good evening, Captain. Good luck to you bear hunting. Thank you. I'm leaving for bear hunting tomorrow morning. Heading to White River to go bear hunting with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters. Pretty excited about it. Jim, good evening. I bet it is fun, John. Hey, Larry, how are you? Tommy checking in. Mad Jack checking in. Gigi, beautiful night in West Branch. Gigi of the famous Lumberjack Restaurant. Steve said he was able to shoot with Amy at the Eastside charity event. Mark, good evening. When am I headed to Rapid River? I'm heading to White River. I'm heading to White River tomorrow morning. The season starts Friday, so I'll get up there early afternoon. If I get there in time, I'll set up my blind and I'll set up a trail camera. If for some reason I don't get there in time, I will wait and set them up, both of them, Friday morning and then hunt Friday night, afternoon. And this time of year, it gets dark so late, it'll be a long, long sit. Otto says, in Petoskey, the sun is shining and it's nice. Chris checking in from Kansas. Keep an eye on my food plots, Chris. I was glad to see the rain here because we got our seed in the ground just before the rain. Also, thank you for the kind words. Bill told me about your phone call yesterday, of course. Thank you, Chris. Bernie says the worst day of golf in a long time, but it happens. I'm not good enough to be mad, and that's the thing about golf. You can't let it get you mad. Bob, good evening. Greg checking in from Saginaw Bay. 4 in the box so far. Are you up in that skinny water, Craig, or are you out deep? Don says he's on vacation but didn't want to miss Amy. George, good evening. How are you? I have a spot up there already. Yeah, I'm hunting with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters, and he has spots. He has baits, 2 baits for every hunter. Am I using the 350? No. I'm not, because the powers that be in Canada will not allow AR-15s to be used for hunting. And besides that, up there at White River, it's up close and personal. I'll be 15 yards from the bait. I'm using my crossbow. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few things tonight. 14 feet of water off the rifle bar, marking tons of fish and bait fish. Uncle Johnny, aren't you driving right now? How are you doing that? Dandy buck out there. Captain JT got his Rapid River knife ordered. I posted it. Well, here it is right here. This video right here is from Chris Durson at Rapid River Knives. This is part of the first batch. They got shipped out today. We'll talk more about that, but I don't want to cut into the time. Angie and Gus, good evening. Brian, good evening. Jeff, good evening. Brandon, how are you? Mike Sills, Michigan Outdoorsman, ready for fall, as are most of us. Mike's knife is on order, should be receiving it Monday. Mike, his secretary is dictating. His secretary might be Aunt Debbie. All right. Let's set the stage here. You know I am a huge fan of MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. In fact, We just about 3 weeks ago here did the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. There, I got to see Amy Trotter of MUCC in action. In fact, I got to see her shoot a golf ball with a an AR-15. Let's bring her in here right now. Amy, good evening. How are you?
Hello, very good. Thanks for having me.
Uh, the golf outing was fun, but if for no other reason than to watch you shoot that ball with that AR-15, that was pretty cool.
Well, what a unique experience, and thank you so much to West Branch Country Club for letting a bunch of rednecks out there. That was thing. So, I mean, that you can't do that on every golf course, and it made it a lot of fun and just so much more outdoor centered than even golf could be.
And we raised $22,000 in change. We more than doubled the profits from our previous year. I earlier in my mind had set an unrealistic goal that I realize now was unrealistic. So I'm happy as can be with $22,000, Amy. That's a big number for a second year event.
Absolutely. I mean, to more than double from last year. And it's because we had so many great sponsors, so many awesome prizes, our raffles, and then, that crazy golf ball whacker guy who brought all those other fun things too. What a great event.
It was. It was a lot of fun. And we will do it next year, the last Friday in July, which is July 31st next year at the West Branch Country Club. So let's get right into it, Amy. TJ's asking, um, any update on the year round coyote season?
Yeah, so tomorrow actually is the Natural Resources Commission meeting. They're meeting up in Gaylord at Treetops, and it is on the agenda and poised for consideration. So we believe the stars have aligned. We believe that the NRC is going to take action tomorrow, and not kick the can further down the road. So we want to again allow them to address and right their earlier wrongs, and open that season back up.
Any reason to expect
Bob's
there won't
agreed.
be enough
Sorry.
commissioners there for a meeting?
Yes, yes. And in fact, we do have a new Natural Resource Commissioner as well. So we can talk a little bit more about that as well.
Okay. Dave Sapansky. Dave, good evening, buddy. How are you? Dave, are you headed to White River right now? Will I see you up there? So, Amy, let's talk about the new commissioner.
His name is Brandon Fewens. He and I have known each other sort of, or worked adjacent at least to each other for quite some time. He previously worked for Senator Debbie Stabenow out of her Northern Michigan office. I didn't know him a lot personally, but Justin and I did have a chance to sit down with him just a couple weeks ago, right after his appointment. And we were excited to hear that he is a hunter. So he grew up in Northern Michigan. We knew his engagement in natural resources policy, but we didn't actually know kind of what his engagement is in the actual outdoors. And he is a hunter. He deer hunts, but he's also bear hunted. He's done the African safari thing too. So
Hmm.
he's tried all the things. He said one thing that he would like to do is get out duck hunting. That he doesn't have a lot of experience on that, and he's really excited to learn a lot more about all the fishing diversity that we have here in our state because he is on the fisheries committee as well.
I will assume that you folks at MUCC will do your best to get him out in the duck blind this fall.
That is one of the plans, yes.
And we have a new director of the NRC, Becky Humphreys, a DNR biologist for many years, former director of the DNR. Thoughts on her in that position?
Yes. As chair of the NRC, she is very fair. She is certainly science focused, and needs good evidence to make changes, and but has also expectation that people are going to engage, that they're going to be reading and listening to those comments that come in, and she's really been easy and accessible to talk to. So we've been really pleased so far.
That's what I figured from her. Randy, good evening, buddy. How are you? Dave, I will see you up there in White River then. And a reminder, folks, if you want to ask Amy Trotter a question, this is your chance. I mean, when else are you going to get a chance to have one of the key players in conservation in Michigan right in front of you that you can ask her a question? So please feel free to post those questions and we will try to get to them all. So, Amy, what's going on right now? What's on your mind? It's kind of a slow period, or are we starting to ramp up for fall now?
We're still kind of in a holding pattern in Lansing. They haven't been really busy because they haven't really been in town for a lot of the summer. They were in actually just today, and they did take action on a really important bill to us, which was the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund annual appropriations. So this actually takes the next step. The trust fund board approves a bunch of projects to spend all of that money, oil and gas revenue money, and put it in projects that buy public lands and also develop those recreational facilities that we have around the state. And that got stuck in kind of some politics and stuff last year. It took a really long time to get that bill through. This time it is moving. It's already passed the House with near unanimous support. And this took the next step to get it out of the Senate committee. Some of the key things in there is a major opportunity for acquisitions in southern Michigan. So, kind of when those opportunities arise, the DNR would have the funding to jump on expanding our public access in southern Michigan, and then also develop new opportunities and kind of make the new Crystal Waters State Game Area more usable. So, this has some really critical funding for hunting opportunities in southern Michigan that we're really excited about.
Crystal Water State Game Area. Where is that?
That's down kind of Monroe County, basically, at the really Wayne, Oakland, or sorry, Wayne, Washtenaw, Monroe corner. So it was previously really a public land desert. It's a new state game area from the Natural Resources Trust Fund a few years ago.
Hmm.
And MUCC played a little bit of a role in actually facilitating some private donations to seal the deal on that acquisition to make it a new state game area. And now this is another $400,000 to help develop that. So the parking lots, the trails, the lights, the things to make those kinds of state game areas more usable and publicly accessible.
You say MUCC played a little bit of a role in that. Amy, listen, I know this. There's nothing big that happens in conservation or hunting and fishing in Michigan that MUCC doesn't play a role in if it's positive. I got to be honest with you. You got your fingers at everything.
Absolutely, that is true. So, yeah, besides that, again, Lansing's been pretty quiet. The NRC is kicking off tomorrow. Again, a lot of fisheries orders on the agenda, but not anything I don't think earth shaking. Um, this is again a time for planning for a lot of our programs. So, we just put our youth camp to bed on Friday. So, we're regrouping. We have a lot of rental groups coming out and using the property over the fall and, kind of fixing what's broken and getting some of those facilities projects done this fall. And then our on the ground projects are still going strong on the weekends, but then we'll kind of put those to bed again for the fall when hunters take to the woods.
Mike has an interesting question. Any word on the baiting tag? Before you answer, Amy, let me just give my thoughts on this. Um, I think the Michigan DNR is never, ever, 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 ever going to go along with a license to bait here in Michigan for whitetails in the lower peninsula because it goes against the grain of everything they've told us about CWD. The only way it would happen, Amy, would be an end run, would be the politicians if the legislature got involved.
So the license to bait is a proposal in the legislature. I can't say that the DNR necessarily supports it. It wasn't their idea, certainly. It has been introduced in the legislature. It hasn't moved, it hasn't had a hearing. So I don't really anticipate that getting a lot of traction and certainly probably not getting signed by the governor inevitably. Now, the NRC could take action to restore baiting in some kinds of maybe non-disease areas or certain conditions. They have not done that yet. I don't see that it's on their agenda anytime soon necessarily, but the next time when deer regulations come up to the forefront and they're digging into that section and those issues in particular, it will always be part of the conversation of should they be investing the time to enforce it, all of those things. So I do believe the NRC will still take a look at it during the next regular deer regulation cycle. But the license idea, the tag idea, I think that's probably dead in the legislature.
Chris has an interesting question. Chris is in Kansas and he's wanting to know if you can help him. Amy, I know you don't have time to reach out to other states, but turn this question around a little bit. Is MUCC unique to Michigan? Are there other states that have groups like MUCC?
There are a lot of other states that have groups like MUCC, or at least work on the same kinds of issues that we do. Now, they're not as large. Some of them have extensive staffs and do a lot of different programs, and some are only, maybe one office staff person keeping the organization alive. So there's kind of the spectrum across the state. Certainly, I do know some folks in Kansas that are working on issues like ours, mainly on the fishing side, so not as much on the wildlife side, but I certainly have some of those contacts. And we do that through the National Wildlife Federation because we're a state affiliate of that national group. And that's where I have the opportunity to interact with other kinds of hook and bullet and wildlife organizations throughout the country.
What's your email address, Amy, if somebody wants to get in touch with you?
A Trotter, Trotter, at mucc.org.
A Trotter at mucc.org. Otto says, what about the status of the hunter education in the classroom? Anything going on there?
Again, the bill passed one of the chambers already. We do need another hearing on that. So it's moving along as fast as things do in Lansing, but really, it's nothing to do with the policy. It's more to do with the politics of the day. They don't even have a budget for the next fiscal year that starts October 1. And, that's kind of their primary thing they need to get done before they can really work on some of these policy bills. So it's not about the issue. It's really just about kind of the other ancillary higher priority issues needing to be taken care of.
Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer, says, hi, Amy. Don, you can send that video, and I'm speaking for you, Amy. You can send the video to atrotter at mucc.org. Does that work, Amy?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Tim, Amy, any thoughts on armadillos being in Indiana, less than 5 miles from Michigan? If they got here, they would be considered an invasive species, right?
As far as I know, this is the first time that we are about to have an armadillo invasion. So this is not something that's on my radar. I am intrigued, but yes, I do believe they would be considered an invasive species. Now, we do need to have kind of a process of what does that mean? That doesn't mean that you can just shoot them on sight like we can with feral swine, for example. We had to pass an invasive species order to allow for that management. So there would be steps that need to be taken if that was the case here in Michigan and they were to be there.
TJ's asking about bobcat tags. Does MUCC get into the weeds on stuff like that, Amy?
We're at the table. The fur harvesters meeting is actually coming up here pretty soon, I think at the end of this month, as well as the Bear Forum. We have people who participate in both of those venues. I haven't really heard that issue come up on the agenda or, kind of get a swell of support at this time. They've been cautiously, expanding bobcat hunting opportunities here in southern Michigan. I haven't heard about getting uh, more bobcat tags, but we are excited that that is one opportunity that has expanded where it's been, you know, uh, closed down or eliminated in other states. And that's, again, one of the things that we're pretty proud of here in our state.
John's asking about fishing rod limits. The bigger question here is there is one funding package that involves an increase in trolling rods for Great Lakes anglers. But Amy, there are a couple of proposals out there to fund the DNR right now. Any movement on that at all?
There's certainly been a hearing on the Senate version of the package, which actually does not yet include the fishing rod, the trolling rod extension. The House package, which I don't believe has actually even been introduced as of yet, has the fishing side of that question in there. I think the Senate is open to including it in their package. They just haven't, yet had that on the agenda to move it forward. So it's entirely possible it could pass the Senate and then the House adds that component to the Senate bill when it comes across the chamber. So again, no movement yet. It is part of the budget package. So, again, when the governor proposes her budget, she included the revenue from some kind of hunting and fishing license package in that budget, but it's up to the legislature to actually enact that.
Do you folks at MUCC agree that some kind of a funding program has to be changed for the DNR? Something has to happen?
Well, we're in a place where, and MUCC is not immune to the same thing. Costs are rising everywhere, and we have, a funding model that is somewhat flat. So everybody needs to increase their revenue somehow, and just to keep up with the rising costs of inflation. And if we want them to do more research or more habitat on the ground or in the water, then we certainly have to find funding opportunities for that. Does it need to be all on the backs of hunters and anglers? Not necessarily, but right now that's the only proposal out there. So we're of course, we're supporting it in concept because we believe that the resources, our natural resources, deserve that investment. But if there's a different funding model out there, that could help bring in that same amount of revenue in a different way, we're open to those kinds of conversations. Right now, we're just responding to kind of what's been laid on the table.
Speaking of funding, and I didn't really fully realize this until the convention in March, I think it was, about MUCC and funding. And you guys are really putting a push on. And for example, if somebody's a member of the Saginaw Field and Stream Club, they're a member of MUCC, but you get just a pittance. You're really pushing for individual membership right now, right? To try to boost the bankroll a little bit, the coffers a little bit.
Absolutely. It's not only just monetary, though. We do want that connection with individuals out there. What often happens with some of our clubs is we're only talking to a handful of maybe the club leadership, and the rest of the club may or may not know really what we're doing, what we're working on their behalf of. So we want to have that direct line of communication with individuals out there because that's how they get up to date information about what's going on in Lansing, about the activities and the events that we have. And then we can, again, prove our worth to them and hopefully, garner donations and additional support for all of our programs. So we want to have that direct individual connection because it's, again, just not a facilitated communication, it's a direct communication with people.
And easy to join, mucc.org, right?
Absolutely. Yes. You can join online. You can send your $35 to our office. That's all it
$35.
is.
What have you thought about actually raising that fee from $35?
We've raised it within the last 5 years up to what it is today, 35. So I definitely think we're due for that. But I also think, we're trying to, again, get people in the door and again, then, ask them for additional support at different times of the year too.
Sure.
Get them
Yeah,
to events, get them to give more deeply to the organization. So it's not all about just the membership. We want people who are invested in our mission.
I got you. Kevin Hannes says hi. He's fishing Lake Michigan. Kevin is the course superintendent at the West Branch Country Club. So we saw Kevin up there. Mick is asking a question about coyote hunting year round. Amy answered that earlier. The NRC is meeting, hopefully, going to talk about that tomorrow. Chris in Kansas says armadillos are an evening hunt for him. Jeff says, hello, good evening. Oh, Steve is asking, any numbers on the East Side Charity Shoot? And listen, I'm not looking to get into their business. If you want to talk about it, Amy, that's fine. If not, release those numbers in a different venue. That's fine too.
Yeah, I think we did not achieve what the Mike Avery golf outing did this
Well,
year on the
very
East
few
Side
things
Charity
do.
Shoot. So we do want to build that back up. So East Side Charity Shoot was up from last year, but down from other years. So I want to say it was around 6,000 or so, but I don't know if our final numbers are in. But we need more people there. So we had a pretty quiet flight for our third flight at that shoot, and we'd love to have more there. It's at Multi Lakes Conservation Association, and we have a great time there, and it's usually right around mid-August.
Bill, I don't. I will do updates from my White River bear hunt. I don't know if I will do live, but I will certainly be doing updates. Bait ban. Amy's already addressed this earlier. Um, Suffice to say, Amy, that I shouldn't word it that way. Let me rephrase this. I am amazed. The more I learn about MUCC, I'm amazed that you are able to accomplish what you do with such a small staff. I mean, people think there are 50 MUCC staffers. I pretty much saw all of you, except for Justin, who was sandbagging us at the golf outing. at the golf outing. I mean, you guys get a lot done with very few resources.
Yes, absolutely. We need more help and volunteers as well. So we are looking for people who are willing to, kind of roll up their sleeves and help us, whether it's at our camp or at one of our events. Or, we even have some vacancies on our executive board, our policy board. So we're always looking for more volunteers because when you look across the landscape of other successful nonprofits, I mean, think about Ducks Unlimited, all those banquets that they do, those are all run by volunteers, not by staff. And we need that kind of volunteerism back in the sportsman community here to really be able to level up and do and maybe even just like we always say we punch above our weight, but maybe we could just like put a little more into it if we had a full set of staff and could do more with more.
Couple of interesting questions, then I'll let you go. Larry at Rabbit Homesteading is a member of MUCC. He's saying, "Look, I like MUCC, but the magazine, the calendar, those are all fine and good. Maybe I don't need those. Maybe give people a choice at checkout whether they want to put their money towards that or something else."
That's a really interesting idea. So
Yeah.
I don't know if technologically we have that capability, but certainly something to look at.
All right, Patrick. I'm going to put this question up. Then I'll read it because I don't want to hide your face. Hunters for the Hungry. Anything going on there, Amy?
So Hunters, Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger, a separate nonprofit organization, is still doing great work out there. The point of sale when you're buying your licenses now is going to a different program called Hunters Feeding Michigan.
Mm.
And again, they have had really successful support and donations. Unfortunately, again, they need more processors to help be part of their network, and so I think they are trying to build that back. They're also doing a lot with some general fund appropriations, so they had to get additional money from the state to do this, but they are finally taking advantage of all those crop damaged deer that are being taken right now on farm fields across Michigan. So they have freezer trucks that they're taking those does to and getting those into that same Hunters Feeding Michigan system. So that's tremendous opportunities there. But yeah, I think they're still working on growing that network of processors to be a little more efficient.
Scott Hand, who we talked about this at the golf outing. Scott has a very, very cool grandson named Blake who has some special needs. And you guys were talking about the concept of opening up MUCC Youth Camp to a limited exposure to special needs kids. What do you think of that idea, Amy?
Yeah, I was really excited to have that conversation. It's not something, and I shared this with Scott. We don't necessarily have, all of our counselors are college kids. They're outdoorsy. They love the outdoors. They love teaching kids in the outdoors. They're not necessarily trained to handle, special needs individuals. But what Scott and I talked about, and again for hearing impairment, getting a collection of kids together that all have that same unique abilities and getting them together so that they can support each other too in the outdoors is a really interesting idea. And then we can kind of be ready and have a plan for making sure they have a great time as well, but they also are meeting kids like them, and raising that social opportunity that camp brings together too. So I'm excited to talk more about it. But yeah, it's not something that we've done before, but I definitely think there's some opportunity there.
Excellent. Linda Barthel, who I met for the first time at the golf outing, is telling you, Amy, a big thanks to you and your super team for the golf outing. Um, Anything else, Amy, that you want to address before we let you get on with your evening?
We do have one more fundraising event coming up yet this fall. So we are going to be at Rooster Ranch in Ubley, Michigan on September 26th. So if you like to shoot pheasants, please put that on your calendar. The registration is open right now. And that's a great opportunity if you haven't ever done a European hunt for pheasants. It's a lot of fun, and I'll have my shotgun there. You see the dogs work, you do all of that, you get a couple good meals in, and again, a lot of prizes and opportunities to support MUCC. So if you haven't ever been to a pheasant shoot, it is a lot of fun. And I got to work out these last couple little MUCC charity shoots with my shotgun. I did a lot better at the east side than I did at the west side, but I'm hoping I can put a little meat on the table at the pheasant shoot.
Excellent, Amy. We will do this again, a Wednesday Night Live. I don't have the date in front of me, but sometime in the fall, about 3 more months. In the meantime, keep up the good work. I would send people to the website mucc.org and encourage people to join and support MUCC. Amy, appreciate your time. Always a pleasure. Let's do this again soon, all right?
Thank you.
All right, Amy, have a good night. Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC, and just a very, very nice, hardworking person. Kevin says the knives are very nice. He'll be ordering one soon. Well, I got this video right here from Chris Durson of Rapid River a couple of hours ago. These are the production version of the knife, and these have already been shipped. So if you were in part of the first group to order these knives, you should have your knives early next week. Now, a reminder that the proceeds from this are going to support Outdoor Driven. And that is a group that is formed to get first responders and veterans on outdoor adventures. This is one of the prototypes. This is my knife. It is a little bit different than the production version, but this is mine. You can order them at rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com. And again, we're helping out Outdoor Driven. Thank you, Chris Durson, for working with me on this. Hey, Brent. Good evening, buddy. Your knife has been shipped, Brent. John says, thank you, Amy, for all that you do. Captain JT says, thanks, Amy. TJ says, thank you, Amy. Jim says, thank you, Amy. Tim Bin says, thank you, Amy. Amy's smiling. Her face is kind of red right now. Everybody loves Amy. Linda says, I checked my email. There's a note that I have a shipment coming from Rapid River Knife Works. Larry says, it's always nice to hear from Amy. Everybody loves you, Amy. Keep up the good work. All right, my friends, let's move on to a couple things. Wasn't that rain we got yesterday, at least in my neck of the woods? Wasn't it wonderful? We got almost 2 inches of rain here, and boy, did we need it, and boy, did the food plots need it. Sam says, I got here late. Can you give me a quick recap on the whole baiting deal? Nothing's changing. The whole baiting deal is nothing. This is me talking. Nothing's going to happen. The DNR is not going to get behind it. And because the DNR is not going to get behind it, I don't think the NRC is ever going to push it on their own. And I don't think the legislature has the chops to make it happen. I don't think there's the support. Personally, do I think we should be baiting? Yes. Does it matter what Mike Avery thinks? No. I just don't see it happen. Scott says it looks like each knife is unique in each color production of the knife. They're absolutely Tom Heriter's checking in. They're one of a kind. Every knife is different. There is no one knife that is the same. JT, I asked to pick up on my knife to be forced to finally see the showroom. You're going to love the showroom. No problem, James. Glad to have you along with us. Okay, so I am getting ready to leave on my bear hunt. In fact, I'm leaving tomorrow morning to Rapid River. Rapid River makes these knives. White River is where I'm going to be bear hunting with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters. I will. The season starts Friday. I'm not holding out for a trophy bear. I'm not holding out for a big bear. I'm up there meat hunting. I'm looking for a meat bear. In fact, if I do score a bear, the hide I'm going to give to Scott Keatsman at Linwood Taxidermy. I have no use for it. I don't have any more room for bear mounts or bear rugs or bear anything except for bear meat. So that's what I'm looking for. No problem, Sam. Always glad to have you along with us. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. Jerry, thank you so very much. I'm looking forward to it. I will be hunting with my crossbow, hunting from a ground blind. I haven't sat in a tree stand on a bear hunt now in probably a dozen years. I quickly learned that hunting out of a tree stand is fun, but if you really want to feel the whole experience and be face to face, eye level, and have that next level of intensity, hunting from the ground is the way to go. And so I'll be sitting in a Wraith 270 see-through ground blind. I will be hunting with my crossbow this year, and I'm looking forward to it. The challenge with bear hunting is to judge the size of the animal. It's not like a whitetail. They don't come out there with a rack on top of their head and go, "Hey, that's a big buck." You got to learn to judge them, and that can be a challenge. The angler, Facebook is going to give me a thumbs up. They didn't. The Angler Quest is now back in the hands of Mr. Angler Quest Brad Dupuis. I ran it across the bay to Linwood Beach last Friday, giving it back to Brad. It was never mine. I was just using the boat. The boat is for sale. I think it's probably got a couple buyers lined up at this point, and it will be used a week from tomorrow for the Angler Quest dealers meeting at Linwood Beach Marina. Going on with the whitefish. I don't know, Chris. I actually don't know anything about whitefish. James, I'm using the Rek broadheads, Frankenmuth-based, Michigan-based, family-owned Rek, R-E-K, and I'm going to use the expandable because on a bear, you want as big a cut as you can get. Bears, in my experience, and I have a fairly good sense of bear hunting because I've done it quite a bit. Bears die very easily with a broadhead if you put it in the right spot. If you make a good shot on a bear, you're probably going to hear him die or maybe watch him die because they don't go very far. But if you make a marginal shot, they're a pretty tough critter, a lot like a whitetail. And so if you do make a marginal shot, you want everything going your favor. And because bears have thick fur, and that fur tends to soak up the blood as it's coming out of the animal, you don't get the greatest blood trail. So on a bear, I like to use an expandable. You're not making a 40-yard shot, so I'm not worried about the expandable not flying true. So I'm using the previous version of the expandable. I know they have a new expandable out for this year. So that's what I'm using. It's barely broken in. It is barely broken in, Rick. There's about 38 hours on the motor. So it's a brand new boat. It's being sold as a brand new boat. Yeah, you missed all the good stuff, Paul. The whitefish population is crashing. Okay, Linda. And thank you for that. And actually, Amy, though she's very well versed in a lot of different areas, Amy wouldn't be my first choice to ask this question to. And a lot of people get confused as to what MUCC is. MUCC is not the DNR. It's a separate entity. So if I wanted to ask a question about crashing whitefish populations, I would go to the DNR and I would ask a Michigan DNR fisheries person that. Though Amy probably knows about it. She knows about she knows about everything. Good luck on your hunt. Wishing you nothing but a great time. I will have a great time. That's all in the works, Patrick. That whole thing is right now. 90% of the promotion of the knife is coming from me. When Chris's social media people get involved in this, and that's going to happen anytime now, they will blow it up and talk about how the proceeds go to Outdoor Driven. But thank you, Patrick. That's a great idea and a great observation and a good point. MUCC checking in. No movement on commercial fishing bills, good or bad as of yet. There has been some hearing of the issue. Oh, so now we're getting some posts. Now MUCC's chiming in here. Where were you guys to back up Amy earlier? I'm just busting your chops. Thank you, Paul. I will. Chris said it's the decline of the habitat from the zebra mussels that's a decline of whitefish. James, I'm using my G5 and my Matthews. I believe they are. G5 is a great Michigan-based family-owned company. I would shoot G5 broadheads and be completely happy. completely confident in their heads. Thank you, Brent. I appreciate that. Yeah. Um, and here's the way this whole thing started, Patrick. Um, Chris Durson suggested to me about a year ago, he said, we need to make a Mike Avery signature knife. And he said, I think you'd sell the snot out of him. And he's basing this, and I'm not going to give the number because it's nobody's business but Chris's, and he shared the information with me. How many knives they have sold using the Avery promo code. Now, by the way, the Avery promo code has changed. Originally, it was a 10% discount, then it became a 15% discount. Because I'm not even going to call it a glitch, but because of the way the Avery 15 promo code was put into their online store, we had to actually change it. And here's the deal now. The new promo code at Rapid River Knives, rapidriverknifeworks.com, is actually Mike Avery 15. The Avery 15 will no longer work. It's Mike Avery 15. You cannot use Mike Avery 15 on the Avery signature knife. We do not want to take 15% profit off the top of this knife. Chris Durson is not making any money on this knife. Mike Avery's not making any money on this knife. The website will not allow you to use the Mike Avery 15 promo code on the Mike Avery knife because we want that money to go to Outdoor Driven. Everything else, you can use it, but it's now Mike Avery 15. Again, that's Mike Avery 15 at rapidriverknifeworks.com or in person at the showroom on US 2, just east of Rapid River. Tom Heriter, you're watching right now. I'll tell you right now, it's my pleasure. I'm responding to your text, but it is indeed my pleasure. Okay, what else? Oh, I got to tell you real quick who's on the show this week. My first guest this week is Dr. Brent Rudolph. Brent is a wildlife biologist. He spent many years at the DNR. He left the DNR to go to Ducks Unlimited and the National Grouse Association, but he's back to Michigan, and he is in charge now of whitetail, elk, and moose. He's basically replacing Chad Stewart in that role. Chad is now in a supervisory role. And then John Dirtka has an update on Michigan spearfishing. Second hour, talking to Tim Roller. Tim is the guy who pioneered the tactic of casting crankbaits for king salmon in the rivers. We talk about that. Then Tom Weston from the DNR with a reminder / update on the DNR's Hunt Fish app. Don't forget to use it. In our third hour, we're getting ready for a deer season with the whitetail whisperer himself, John Eberhard. MUCC saying they can't believe, and I don't know who this is. I don't know if this is Justin. I don't know if this is Tyler. I don't know if this is Steve who's making the post, but whoever, it's Amy. It's Amy. Amy says she can't believe that Brent took the job. He was at the Rough Grouse Society and Pheasants Forever, now back to Michigan DNR. Hardest job in state government, and he took it. I'm with you, Amy, and I asked him that very question. I said, Brent, why did you come back? And why did you come back to take this job? Because it's a thankless job. It's Amy who's posting. And then we wrap it all up with Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. And this week, he has a turtle recipe. One more time. Probably not going to happen, Patrick. One more time. That right there is some of the first run of the Mike Avery signature knives. Those knives that you're looking at right there have already been shipped. Linda, yours is in there. Mike, yours is in there. Brent, yours is in there. Okay? And the way you do that is you go to rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com, to get your version of this knife. This is a prototype. You saw the production knives. Proceeds from this knife go to Outdoor Driven to get first responders and veterans involved in the outdoors. Okay, so you know what's next?
Look out, every fish that you catch, every heart you embrace brings us
All right, thank you to Amy
closer.
Trotter of MUCC for joining me. MUCC.org is the website, MUCC.org. If you love to hunt, fish, shoot, or trap in Michigan or just love conservation, I would seriously ask you to consider joining MUCC. I'm headed to White River tomorrow for a bear hunt. I will give you updates on that hunt, probably not live, but I will give you updates on that hunt. In the meantime, my friends, thanks for joining me on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. Again, thank you to Amy Trotter, MUCC.org, MUCC.org, my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Have a great week. I'll talk to you next time right here on Wednesday Night Live.